What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wholism podcast. We are online. We look like an ESPN Pat McAfee show ordeal where everybody's kind of zoomed in, having a good time. But I'm going to be your host today, Ryan.
And I'm Lucy.
And we're going to start this off, as we always do, with the Serenity Prayer. Higher power,
grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Boom. All right, y'all. So, as we always say at the beginning, if you have any questions or comments or anything you're thinking about, or, things that we've talked about that have touched on you, or you're thinking about some stuff, just feel free to send us a message or anything on any of the platforms that you're watching this from. You can email us at thelivewholismpodcast@gmail.com, write us on YouTube, Instagram, or leave a rating and comment on this thing. So we're going to keep putting that out there, and we're going to move on because we don't have anything this week yet.
You can't keep, sorry. But when you say that we have nothing this week, you're putting out we have nothing. And it is hard to manifest from that place. So speak as you will, but I will highlight that we have not yet had anything, and that I look forward to receiving something when we do.
I was trying to figure out a better way to say it. We haven't received anything yet.
Or we don't even have to say that.
Yeah, I don't have to say that.
Right?
Either.
Lack of the comment really it speaks to that we didn't get a comment.
That's a great point too. And I was like, it feels weird saying it, but I didn't know what else to do. I've been saying it so much. So whatever.
Here we are.
Anyways, here we are. But we're going to go ahead now and get into the meat of the podcast, which is what we've been doing to stay whole and aligned and nourished physically and mentally. And then we'll get into the topic, which is what we've been doing to try to grow spiritually, emotionally, all these other good things. But physically, let's get started. What in the world? What you been up to?
Okay, so I have been not feeling well. That is my physical journey. I am feeling well today. This is like the first day coming out of it. But really that was my journey, and it's cool when that happens, I will say, because I have learned so many holistic practices to put in place that I'm like, okay, this is happening. Here's what we do. And great. Like, I'll be okay. It gives me this sort of confidence, I guess, if you will. Like, I'm pulling out my little emergency pack. Like, I know what to do. So I felt it coming on Friday night, and I was going to bed, and I felt like the tickles in my throat and that sort of thing. And I had an event on Saturday. I was speaking, and it was live. So that was, I was like, I can't be sick. But I have been learning a big lesson from the universe to love myself when things like that happen. Even like the thing I shared last week was aligned with that. And that's just been a really big experience for me during this shadow work and shadow season. So I remember as I was falling asleep, I made a deal with the universe. I was like, I know that what I could learn around this time would be, okay, if you're sick, you don't push yourself. You don't, you would need to cancel. Like so I was like, okay, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm sick, I will cancel. I have learned my lesson, universe. So now I don't need to wake up sick. Right. And that was how I went to bed. I thought it checked out, I was like, I get it. That would be the lesson, so we don't need to do it now.
Give me the lesson,
I've already learned it. And then my dreams were fascinating. In my dreams, I dreamed that the day this was going to be was 11/11, which is a big energetic portal. And so in my dreams, I dreamed that my 11/11 lesson was that I was sick and I was supposed to not push myself and cancel. I literally dreamed it. So when I woke up, I was sick and I had zero hesitation. I just went downstairs and I was like, I have to cancel. Like I literally dreamed it. I mean, it just was what it was. So it was interesting for me. There was the physical part and then the mental emotional of just being like, it's okay. I repeated a mantra my cousin has told me recently, which is, I'll get done exactly what I've meant to get done today. It's basically a way of surrendering to your higher power's will. So I was like, I'm doing my higher power's will, so there's no reason to be mad at me. Obviously, I want to go and do this thing. Yeah. Obviously, I don't want to leave someone hanging on a live summit, a couple hours before. Obviously, I don't want any of this. Well, good thing I didn't do it. My higher power did. And now I just got to live it out. So I might as well channel a hell of a lot of love to myself while I deal with facing all those things. And so I did. I messaged them and said I couldn't be there and I was so sorry and just told them the truth. And then I moved on with my day and went into my healthcare regimen, which is chugging insane amounts of water because I believe, and I feel like there's science to this too, but for me, it's really just a visual. I envision whatever it is in my body can be flushed out. And so just creating this funnel of water that's just flushing it out, and then leaving me as I'm meant to be at the end, like flushing out the non-well-being. And then I add language. It's really big, even as I'm saying here, like non-well-being and feeling not well. I do as little as possible to say things like, I am sick, I feel awful. I validate my experience and I say, like, I have been feeling these things and these are going on, but I don't continue to like bring it on myself by, it's neurolinguistics. We found out the word for this. Do you remember? Oh, yeah. So playing with neurolinguistics is a big part too. And then I do what I can for nourishment. Zinc and vitamin D are really easy ones to take lots of. And then I let the last thing I do is I just kind of let the wave wash over me. I go to bed and stay there for like 24 hours. I don't leave my house. I totally give in to the fact that my body is alerting me that I need to pause and rest and realign. And so I found that by giving in fully, I can recover really quickly. And here I am at 72 hours out and doing okay. So here we are.
You know what's wild, like, about being sick? Like, for me, I'll be over there just kind of like, see, you saw it as, all right, I need to rest. You know, the first thing came to my head was like, sometimes I've heard comedians talk about this, which is like, when you're really wanting to do something, like, the adrenaline will kind of like take over and kind of like keep you together until it's over. And in my head, I'm just like, oh shit, Lucy's about to tap into that. And and I'm like, oh wait, no, she did the opposite, which is probably the better thing, which is let your freaking body. Those 72 hours, it's just, I know for me, it's been like, golly, this is lasting forever. But I like what you said though about like letting it all kind of like flush out, because I've kind of learned that about sickness. Like, it's because something has entered your body that your body's like, what the fuck is that? So it's just fighting like hell to get it all out. And that's just the external, that's just what happens. It's just your body's like, hey, there's something foreign in here. And so drinking water and flushing it out. Like, I think about that a lot. So it seems to really work.
Yeah. And I do just want to say, because I kind of love that you brought that up about being sometimes going the other side and tapping into that adrenaline. And I will say 2 things helped me know not to do that. And one was that's where I was about a week before this. Mm-hmm. I had just experienced some things where I had to like pull out from the depths of the bottom, and I like barely made it. And I remember thinking, whoa, that's new. That hasn't happened in months. Like, since I started all these speakings, like I could barely do it. And that was the first time. And I was like, I feel like I might be getting tapped out. So when this happened, I remembered an Abraham Hicks saying, which is, if you don't feel good about doing something, like I wanted to do it, but I didn't feel good about it, the results can be disastrous. If you feel great about doing something, go for it. But I was like, if I go through with this, it's live. What if what if me pushing myself right now, since I don't feel good about it, could end in something worse for the host and me, But anyway, I just appreciate that you brought that up, because I did think about that. And then the other reason I I kind of pulled it together and didn't go that way as I pictured what you told me last week about Freya and Gohan, right? Gohan?
Oh, Frieza and Gohan, yeah.
Frieza and Gohan being the head and the heart coming together. And I was like,
Frieza and Goku. Sorry.
Goku,
Frieza and
yes.
Goku.
Okay. I was like, my head and my heart are coming together and we're doing this in victory of love. You know, that's what we push hard for these days. That's my lesson, is loving myself with all my might like they do. And I pictured them in the cartoon. So thank you for that.
And I'm going to clarify this for anime fans. She's not talking about when Goku and Frieza were fighting on Namek. She's talking about, we were talking about the Tournament of Power when Frieza and Goku had to fight together to get rid of Jiren. That's a lot of words that meant nothing to you, Lucy, but there are some people that...
It did. I know. And I want to respect. I mean, I have mad respect for the anime culture, but because especially because of things like that, they help, you know, that helped me in that moment visualizing.
Isn't that wild? I've been thinking about that moment a lot. Like, golly, like I don't think I'd ever said it before to you until that moment, which was just like, oh, that was like the head and the heart kind of coming together. Yeah. They've been fighting for a long time. I'd say with that for a few days.
Same.
So it's really cool that it impacted you like that.
Same, man. Same. What have you been up to physically?
Nothing crazy. Kind of the same old, to be honest with you. Actually, no. So so a lot of my journey lately has been dietitian stuff. And so, what was interesting was like this past week was a lot of, I think I've talked about it a lot, hunger cues and figuring out when I'm hungry and seeing when I'm hungry and, you know, all these different things and asking myself, am I hungry? Or even if I'm not hungry, like eating anyway, because I've completely blocked out being hungry. So, one of the things that I was talking about with her, which was like a very interesting realization, I was telling her I did a horrible job of shopping. And I was like, I just, fuck it. And so she was just like, because we had made a plan where I would like take Mondays to actually like sit down and get organized and see what I wanted to do and everything. And I was just like, bro, that sounds off. But I know that it'll help me. I've been trying to do that for years. I buy a planner every single year, and I mean, like I'm on it like a good month or two, and then after that, it's a wrap. And in that month or two, I'm doing super good. But so I was like, all right, yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, I know that'll work. And so 2 weeks later, she was like, how did it go? And I was like, I didn't even do it once. Like it didn't happen, not at all. And as we were talking. So now she's like wondering why I didn't want to do it. I'm like, oh, come on, why are you getting to the mental of this? Which I think that's been a lot of my diet journey, my dietitian, what's it called? Not dietitian, what is it called? Nutritionist. A lot of my nutritionist journey has been more mental, more so than just like the actual eating part. And I was telling her, I was like, yo, it's just boring. Like she had said it. She was like, it just sounds boring. And I was like, yeah, but like, it's not exciting. It's stupid. It's not fun. And I was just like, and I struggle, and I was realizing as I was talking to her, I struggle with those things in every last point of my life. Whether it's financial stuff, whether it's even sometimes video stuff, like when I'm not super organized, like I don't like to get organized because it's not fun, even though it helps me out. But I was telling her, she's like, well, do you think like a worksheet or like a kind of list would work? And I was like, I mean, maybe. And then as we kept talking, I was like, wait a minute. I think that's actually the best thing for me. Like, as I kept talking, and I was like, yo, like, that actually makes it fun. And I was realizing I have an incredible amount of like things inside of my head. And it was something like I was thinking about even with you that first time me and you met with millennial adulthood stuff. And like, you had like made this whole list of a bunch of things some years ago, and you were just like, yeah, and you can do this, and like, you know, you want to get this and this and this done. And I was just like, yeah, I've got all these ideas. You had all these boxes checked, and I was like, yeah, well, this goes here and this goes here and this goes there. But you helped to kind of like organize it to where it just kind of broke it down to just like 2 things. And I was like, oh shit, like that's way easier. But that made it fun. All of a sudden I have somewhere to plug that information. So that helped me get organized. and be able to have a focus. Same thing with like financial budgeting stuff. I have this Excel sheet that it's kind of like a fun game to play. I can go in there and change what I'm gonna like do with my money, and then I can go in there and like put how much money I made and put like negative things in negative like put like -60 or something like that. No, that's gonna go out, and like the Excel sheet just kind of like naturally calculates it. And I'm just like, it's kind of like a fun game to play. And I was like, yo, that same thing will work for me nutrition wise. So I was like, yo, that actually might be the best thing for me. I was like, because I have a lot of knowledge and things of like I'm thinking about as far as food and what I want to eat and all these different things. I was like, problem is just it's everywhere. It's not organized. And for you to just have me sit down and plan it, I'm overwhelmed. And so then she was like, oh, that is interesting. So she was like, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna like do some research and like try to find like a good worksheet to help you to be able to do that. Because yeah, she was like, I'm the same way. Like it's boring, it's not fun. And I was like, but if you take that and like make it a cool like now it turns into this interesting game or interesting thing that like makes it a little bit more exciting for me. That makes it a little bit more rewarding. And that was like a really, really, really interesting tidbit to like, I've known it about myself, but it's just different when I talk to somebody else about it and I'm like verbalizing it. So that was really cool for me nutrition wise this week. And like, as I've said, like I've just been dropping weight like hell. And I have just found, and one of the things that's been very exciting this week too, is like with my weightlifting and stuff like that. And I was doing it today when I was doing leg workouts, is that I'm really doing a lot. I'm really almost second nature incorporating the alignment workouts and exercises we do in yoga. And I've been applying that a lot to my weightlifting, and it has just completely transformed. I'm not as sore when I leave. B, like, you know, sometimes that pain that like kind of comes from working out seems like this like great gladiator moment, but like I'm realizing that's not like there like that anymore. Now I'm just focused on the strength as opposed to like pushing through the pain. I'm like, oh no, it's probably a lot of it was because my body wasn't aligned the way it should have. So that was been kind of cool. And like what's been kind of cool too is I'm just as strong. So now I'm like losing the weight and my strength is still there and my body's a whole lot more aligned. So like I'm a lot more flexible. All those small little muscles that I wasn't taken care of before, like they're now engaged and stuff like that. And it's just all kind of helping me out. And so like today when I was lifting, I was just like, man, I'm just feeling just at a different level. And so I was able to kind of like this week start to mentally get myself back together. And I'm starting to kind of like split between gyms. Because this week I kind of like realized like I don't always like driving to Morrisville all the time. It's like a 20-30 minute drive. And I was like, man, there's an O2 right around the corner, like downtown. So I can go there instead. And because like sometimes the drive kind of takes me out of it mentally. And so I realized maybe a shorter drive will kind of help out too. So it's just a lot of cool things physically within myself this week that I've just awareness and change. So yeah, that's it.
Wow. I love the nutritional. I mean, I love that she noticed and that you guys put together a way to make it fun for you. And it is wild that how many years ago was that we got together and I mean,
like 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Yeah. Ryan asked me to help him organize some thoughts he had. I mean, a lot. Yeah. You already mentioned on it, but it was just, it's cool. It's cool to remember that because that's such a dynamic that we have now in Wholism. You know, you're so creative and I can kind of help bring structure to it and then we're off to the races. It's
friggin' amazing.
Wow.
And I've been doing that a lot of things. Help my sister out with it. Yesterday, one of the things that like you had brought to me was when we were getting ready to do some stuff with the Kickstarter thing, and you want to sit down and stop and like, reminisce on what we had done right and some like just some exciting things. And it was interesting. I know Lori's getting ready to graduate middle school and next semester. And I was like, yo, how you feeling about it? And she was just like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to graduate. I'm ready to graduate high school. And I was like, well, you're still in 8th grade right now. So you have to slow down. But I told her, I was like, I was telling her the story about the Kickstarter. And I was like, you know what we're going to do though? We're going to sit down for a little bit. And we are going to like go through what you've enjoyed or thought about or things that come to you through middle school stuff. And I was like telling her some of the things and all these different things. And she was like, dang, I forgot I did that. Dang, I forgot that happened. And I was like, yeah. And so once again, like Lucy, you bring so much incredible stuff. But
Ryan, thank you. I appreciate that. Damn, that's so nice. I mean, it's cool to see. I mean, I love when you remind me of things too that have worked for me, or like when I remind you of things that have worked for you. That's double powerful. I was just applying what you said to my life. It's cool. It keeps paying it forward,
Well, so mentally, what in the world have you been thinking about or doing or up to, or what in the world's been going on up there that's been getting you up there
up there, right? Always a lot going on up there. So I've been playing this game recently where I've just been trying to make my thoughts about now. And what I mean by that is I've realized lots of times I'm just thinking, and as much as I've tried to not think so much, there's still just a portion of me that's going to be thinking throughout the day. So if I can take that as the basis, can I at least make those thoughts positive or helpful or beneficial? And recently I have been having fun doing things like, okay, if my brain is at that moment doing some sort of hamster wheel, just getting it on the right hamster wheel. So I'll be like, so for right now, it would be like, I am talking into this microphone. Oh, wow. I am on this podcast. Oh, look, my feet are on the floor. Oh, look, that's a little sound that I hear. And so it's like, at least it's just neat because it's bringing me to the present, and at least what it's stopping is the spiraling thoughts that I have about the past or the future. Because before I know it, I'm thinking about something, even if it's something I'm happy about that I want to do tomorrow. And then I think about next month and next year, and I'm off to the races with my whole life before I know it. But if my thoughts need to be going, if that energy needs to be happening at that moment, if I can at least have it spinning around the present moment.
There's something for that. It was it you that told me about that sensory? I remember it was sensory something that you were talking, like that, not you were talking about. I heard it from somewhere, like sensory awareness or sensory connection, something like that.
Well, I done be talking about the senses like every freaking week, how you can tap into hearing and taste and smell and touch and sight anytime you want to get out of your mind. But no, go ahead.
I'm about to say, and it's something like you said, like that puts me back in the present moment. It's so interesting though. Like I'm curious, like you've gotten better with it. Do you find it a whole lot easier now to like kind of get yourself to like focus in on that, or was that ever like even a issue for you?
Oh my gosh. It has been such a freaking issue. I appreciate you saying that it sounds like it's easier. It is easier in that I know to go there immediately. I still pull on that habit over and over and over and over throughout the day. But what's easier is that I know to go right there and pull on that habit. So like my biggest one is just hearing. Anytime, that's the closest thing I can do to meditating on the spot. Just tap into what I'm hearing. And I will say the fun part that has gotten like easier, if you will, about that is that I can hear so many more sounds. Like I can hear more and more subtle sounds the more and more I tap into this sense. And that is fun. That does make it like a game.
You know, it's like, and I was talking to my sponsor this morning and we were talking about something and we were talking about like practicing and like continue to do things and how we get better at it. He was like, I've talked to people, they're just like, they'll meditate. And we always tell them like meditation helps to be able to like to sit quietly and be with yourself really does help. And he was just like, and then people will do it 2 or 3 times and be like, it doesn't work for me and yada, yada. He was like, well, that's because you did it 3 times and you weren't great at it and you moved on. And like, it's so wild how like in your journey, like you just kept plugging away at it, even when it's like this shit, this is the 6th time I've done this and it's still not working. Like, and that's got like, golly, like that's just like the most incredible thing I think to do with like any kind of practice. It's just like, bro, this just takes time. And like, that's just really cool that you kept to the point where like now you can do it a whole lot easier now.
Thanks, man. Yeah. It reminds me of one of our favorite sayings, progress, not perfection. It's like, once I realized there was nowhere to get, I just realized the direction I always wanted to go in. So I did whatever it took to keep going in that direction.
So you just kept on doing it. What else? My brain always go, well, nothing else is working. So.
Exactly. And I feel like that's been the theme, right? What's the opposite? What's different? Like, well, nothing else is working. Might as well try this. Like, nothing like a last resort theme.
Nothing like it. It's just like, it's just, I have done everything else.
Right.
This is just, I'll do it.
Right.
I'll try. Like, I think that's like the beautiful thing about desperation, where it's just like, whatever you tell me, I'll do. Like, I am just tired.
Yep.
And I'm so grateful that like we got tired early in our lives.
So beautiful. I get it. Right?
We didn't have to get tired at 60. Like, golly. Like I can make a whole lot better decisions knowing I'm tired now and going, well, fuck it. So that's dope.
Nothing like getting knocked down early, Then
I think a lot of people get knocked down early. It's just, am I going to pay attention to the fact that I got knocked down? Like, I think God has tried to humble me a lot throughout my life. I just wasn't willing to listen for a while. Thank God I started listening earlier than most. So
maybe that's what it's about, the listening then. Yeah. I guess that's where the choice is. Yeah. Hey, which gets us back to my favorite sense, right? The listening. It kind of like all checks out. That's pretty cool. Okay. What have you been up to mentally, emotionally?
You said something on it earlier, 11:11. And Chris Brown dropped a new album called 11:11. And I was listening to it. I'm a huge Chris Brown fan. And I was just like, I was listening to it. And all of his albums have just been great. Lately, like he's been putting out like 30 song albums. And I'm just like, it's almost overwhelming with the amount of good music it is, to where like it's not particularly like always cohesive. But I'm like, golly, like, but like 25 out of the 30 songs are great. Like, jeez,
that's a lot of songs.
So I'm listening to it this time, and I was just like, what is kind of going on? Like, what is this doing inside of me? I don't know. Like, there was just something about it. Like, I just couldn't stop smiling. I just couldn't stop listening. Like, I was finding myself almost trying to imitate and like emulate like his voice and stuff. Like, I'm a huge fan of his, but I was just like, because me and Janae are huge fans. So like, as soon as I told her about it, she was like, what? I'm in a meeting right now. I can't wait to freaking listen to this thing. I'm so annoyed these people are trying to make me work. It was just really funny. And so I'm listening to so many of these songs. Some of the songs, of course, don't hit me right away. So like, I just continue to listen to it over and over. That's how I listen to albums. And so, to like really get a good judge on it. And So as I'm listening, something just starts impacting me. And I start realizing like what makes him so unique and cool is that like his voice whenever he's singing, like how do I put this? There's a feeling that he's able to convey just through the sound of how he's singing. And
Mm.
there's an emotion he's able to convey just through the vibrations of how he's able to kind of take his voice up and down and kind of like ride with the beat. And like it's almost to a point where like his voice could be the beat itself. So I'm
Wow.
like listening to that, just like every song, every voice, everything, you have to hit a different harmony in order to do that. And I'm just like, this is beyond anything I could ever think of. And so once again, like so this time I was just like really focused in on just like I am really right now motivated and I'm in awe of this dude. Like again, like what a what a just generational talent that is just beyond anything I could ever think of. And so I started thinking about this mentally, like, golly, like this is inspiring me so much too. Because I realized this, like, that is a very unique skill. That's something that takes time and time to do. And I think there are some things, me and someone were talking about this one time. There's uh there is a certain thing like gift space to which like that's just straight up ordained from God. Like no matter how hard you work at it, someone is just gifted at that. Like you
Mm.
just like no matter what you do, like they just do it easily. So when you're operating in gift space, or you see someone operating in gift space that they make something look so simple and so easy,
Mm.
appreciate that because that is like that's God working. I know this sounds like just high praise, but but it's just huge. So I was in awe of that, and I was just realizing like more and more mentally, like I can appreciate nowadays more people when they're operating in gift space. Like when no matter how hard I work, they are just gonna always have like a little bit of a leg up because God just had them to be that person. And what it kind of made me think on myself is operate within my gift as well and like
Mm.
be more confident in that. Because what I realized is that I can be inspired by someone like Chris Brown. I was inspired by someone like Chris Brown operating in gift space and letting it be completely just putting it completely out there. That inspiration then inspired me to want to operate more in my gift space with writing and the book and stuff like that. And then hopefully that inspires someone else when they see that to go and operate within their gift space, or maybe someone else or maybe, you know, Chris Brown sees what I write and that inspires him to operate more within his. Like, it's just so beautiful to kind of like see how those things kind of just like spar off of each other.
Mm.
And I was feeling that for like the first time. Like I know I felt it my entire life, but to like really accept and absorb it, completely freaking different. Um, and I think that's why I'm just always just in awe when people are doing things that they're meant to do. I think that's why I'm always trying to be around people that are doing things that no matter what, they would be doing these things. Like
Huh.
money or nothing needs to be involved. Like this is how I get my spirit out. This is like, this is like almost for my mental health. Like I've just gotten
Wow.
so good at that. So listening to this album this week, I was just like, every song is unique. Some songs, you know, that's why I'm very careful with music because I start to soak in the message too, just because it is so beautifully put together. And gift space doesn't always mean that like that someone's using it for good. Sometimes
Mhm.
people operate within their gift space and are putting like terrible things out there for you, but you're just soaking it in because it somehow touches in on every last sense. And there was a few songs that I was just listening to that I was just like, I didn't even realize what the words were. I just know that I was naturally starting to like understand. And one of the songs, like Messed Up, just really hit me. And he said the words were like, um, I'm desperate, stressed out, something fucked up again, living life and desperate to get it, but you know I'm messed up. And I'm just like, yo, like I didn't even hear that before, but I just know that I was just like vibing with it. So just like my mental this week was just, I love to be in awe, where I don't have to do anything besides experience. And I kind of had that, and it inspired me to not quit on mine, because who knows if that impacts someone else like that. So yeah, that was my mental this week.
Wow, that's beautiful. It makes me think of that movie. Did you ever see, was it Soul, where they would go into an in-between place when they were experiencing the height of their craft or their purpose for being, and it was basically like similar to heaven, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a special, and I love that you talk about vibrations and stuff. I mean, because it is literally a vibration that's being put out, a sound link, a wavelength, links of energy.
That's what it is. It's literally a vibrational sound, where I mean, like, I know when I'm singing, like when you're going low, like there's a certain way to which your throat will open up, and then when you're going high, there's a certain way. So like you can kind of, it's almost literally like a wave, like that. Like if I'm going stressed and desperate, like, you know, you can kind of just like see it going up. So it literally is like a wave sound vibe.
It's beautiful to see anyone in that space. And then, like you said, the ripple effect of that. I mean, anytime we bring any energy to Earth, we allow more of that energy to breed on that. And so breed is a weird word.
But I mean, straight up. But like the interesting thing though with that is that like it's like, this is why I like to be around people who, because it inspires me to do something with that when it comes into my space. You know, I think sometimes, I don't think I've ever been this way, but I've been around people who like can kind of push that aside or try to like down it. And for me, like, to be around it is an inspiration. So I don't know. I'm just, it's a beautiful thing. And like I said, and just, I've been listening to it all weekend. And
it is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
So that kind of like gets us a little bit though into the topic.
Topic time.
All right, so time for the topic. So I'm gonna start this off with, there's one of the pillars we have, which is something that we say, clarity through focus. So this is what I've been trying to like not talk to you about whatsoever. So if you come into the house now, downstairs in the den looks completely different.
Whoa.
So last week, after you left or something, I forget what the freak happened, but we've been talking about doing these remodels on the house and stuff like that. And there was, you know, to do this stuff can be expensive and everything. And so me and my dad had been like talking and trying to figure out, well, my dad be like, well, that's expensive. And I'd be like, all right, you know, cool. So like, let's figure out what we need to do then. Oh, Ryan, like, I want to do this and I don't. And so eventually I would just get frustrated, because I was just like, I'm living it. Like, this is starting to get a little frustrating. So then I was talking with Wallace. One of the things we want to do was scrape the popcorn off the ceiling. In the 90s, we had a terrible, terrible trend where everybody put popcorn on their ceilings. It's the worst thing ever, and we're all paying for it now.
It's so true. There's not one place that, yeah. I've never thought that was intentionally. You're right, though. That's at some point that was intentionally the design, I guess. I mean, that's how it got there.
And so one of the things we wanted to do was scrape that off the ceilings and replace it with like a flat ceiling, which looks better, cleaner, easier to maintain, yada, yada. So last week, I was just like, you know what? I don't exactly know what to do, but I was talking to Wallace, and Wallace like, yeah, I did this in my house already. Like, he was like, just take bleach and water and just spray it up there. And eventually that'll kind of like loosen it up. And then it just comes off easily. And I was just like, all right, whatever. He told me that. But then last week, I was just like, all right, there's a small little bathroom down here. Let me at least test this theory out and see if it works. So I spray it on there, do these kind of things, and I'm like, okay, first of all, bleach and water is strong. So I started realizing a few things already. All right, I need a mask because I'm going to die.
Good. Okay, good. I've been mentally thinking that this whole time. I'm like praying for you in that way. So really, I'm really appreciative that you just said that. Okay, I can breathe.
It took me a while to realize that, but I was just like, this is not good. I'm breathing a lot of chemicals. So I get the mask and everything, and I'm just like, oh shit, it's starting to come off easy. Well, what the hell is that? Wasn't expecting that. So then like, Wallace was also just like, yo, like just get this drywall ceiling paint primer, and like, I'm telling you, like you put that on there, smooth it out, sand it down, and then you'll be able to like put the ceiling paint on there and stuff. And I was just like, it can't be that easy. You know, people get paid a lot of money for this. There's no way that I can be able to do this. But I did. And so I was just like, okay, well, I took that off of the ceiling. So then I started like really taking care of the walls, because like that wallpaper has been in the bathroom for a while, and I've just not wanted to touch it because I didn't know what was going to happen next. So I was just like, now I kind of got a second. I know what to do next. Like I've got this drywall stuff to paint on there. And I was like, oh, let me finish taking this off then. And I'm going to paint those walls so that we can get primed to like actually paint these things. So then I did that, and I was like,
wow,
okay, this is starting to feel good. So then like, I started kind of looking around and going like, yo, like we want to replace this sink and vanity. And I had already I cut off the water to the sink and stuff like that so that it wouldn't come out. And I was just like, let's just take this. Let's see what it would like to take this sink out and stuff like that. So I was trying to figure out how it was against the wall. Was it like caulked up there, which is like the sticky stuff that keeps it there? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, so then I just thought, all right, well, I know two things. It looks like the tubes that go into the water are just kind of screwed on. I know how to screw stuff off. So I did that, cut off the water and screwed it off. And I was like, had a little bucket underneath just in case some water came out. And I was like, well, that worked. So then I screwed off the other one. And I was like, okay, well, that's working. What the fuck is happening right now? Like, and then the sink was hard to come off. So I just kind of was like looking around, me and my dad trying to figure out how to get it out because he wasn't there. It was just me. And that was the thing too. I was like, this is just me. And so then I was like, like, this is interesting. I see two little bolts right here that like is going directly into the sink. I wonder what happens if I unscrew those. I unscrewed them and I was like, oh, look at that. The sink came out. Nice. So
holy cow.
Yeah. So now I'm like, so like now I'm gonna take the whole cabinet out the sink was sitting on top of, but it was like something was against the wall. But I was just like, I wonder like if like I start to kind of like shimmy some of this stuff off, I can kind of like taking it apart piece by piece. And sure enough, boom, boom, boom. I'm taking it all apart piece by piece. And now the sink is gone. I'm just like, we're ready to replace that now. So I'm like, okay. And not only do I feel like I can now replace a sink, but I feel like I can also install the other one now. Because Elon Musk said this, like someone told him, if you want to learn how to build a car, take one apart. And so I was like, yo, like I know how to put this new sink together. I just took this one apart. That's interesting. That's a whole lot simpler than I thought it was. So then I go into the den and I was just like, the popcorn came off the ceiling very easy. So then I just started kind of like scraping just to kind of see what the freak would happen. And I was like, okay, that is working. And this is starting to like really become like, my mind went from curiosity to this is now like a project. This was not a project when I first started doing this. This was more experimental. Let's see if this works. And then it started working. And then working gave me confidence. As it started working, it started giving me confidence. And the confidence started making me want to do more, which was very interesting. And I started like doing it little by little at a time. And I was just like, just take this a small step at a time, Ryan. There was a lot of bleach smell in there. It was tough. And that's a big place down there to like have to do all that. So like Tuesday I was doing it. And then like, because I was starting to see small progress, like I just kept going and kept going. And there was some times where it was just hard to get off, and I was starting to just like chisel like a motherfucker. And like, but like my arms are starting to get tired, and I'm having to still go to work in between this too. But I'm up till like 1 a.m. every single night, just scraping and scraping. And then like sometimes when I'd spray the water and bleach up there, and then I had to wait for it to set. So then I thought, I've got this paint stuff. Let me like just start painting the ceiling and seeing how that goes. And I'd just be like, oh, well, that looks better when I do that. Interesting. So it just kept giving me this huge amount of confidence. And then eventually, I think every single night from Tuesday until Sunday, I was scraping and painting and scraping and painting and taking off the wallpaper and painting and learning small little things about how this house kind of gets put together. And I was just like, yo, it's not as hard as I thought it was. It was funny you said that earlier with the Ethernet cord.
I was thinking that, yeah. That was the phrase today.
Yeah, and I was like, as a matter of fact, I'm feeling a little bit more empowered to do more. And like now my mind has gone from experimental to project to creative a little bit, which is, and I started like remembering some things about myself. I had no clue how to build a computer. And I just went and did it.
I was also thinking about that. I'm like, if you can put a computer back together, you can put a sink together.
And I was thinking when I first started doing that, I had no clue. All I knew was that it was just screws that were keeping these particular things in. And then boom, I was like, oh. So I just kept unscrewing until I was like, that's freaking interesting. So it's the same kind of deal with putting all this stuff together and everything. So I ended up getting the whole freaking downstairs ceiling scraped off. I ended up getting all of the sides, there is no more popcorn down there. It's just a flat ceiling.
Whoa.
The wallpaper is taken off, and I'm starting to like paint that. So like, but there were starting to be tears inside of the wall. So like, then I had to learn how to what they call mud, which is like you take this little compound stuff, and it's literally mud. Like, you know how mud gets hard? It's hard. Like, it's literally just a powder that you put water in, and you put it across it, and it literally hardens it up.
Oh my gosh.
And like sticks it together. And I was like, damn, like, because one of the things I was looking at was these general contractors who build, they go into the same Lowe's and home improvement that I do.
Wow.
I have the same access. What do they know that I don't? So it was just a very interesting thing. So the topic was kind of like coming to me. The process has been really hard. It's not the process hasn't been hard. That's the wrong word. The work has been hard. And I had to get on my dad a little bit, because as he was seeing me do it, he was looking around and was just like, oh no, Ryan, like, maybe we should put popcorn back up here. I looked at that man and said, excuse me? And he was just like, oh no, just like a lot of work. And I was like, Dad, I am 3/4 of the way done with this. Go somewhere else. I don't have time for you.
This is not helpful.
And I was like,
pop some popcorn.
Yeah. I was like, you want me to scrape this off just to put it back? You've lost your mind. And so, but it was one of those things. He was just like, it just seemed like a lot of work. And I was like, Dad, it is a lot of work. But I was like, but you were right in that it would look better. And it does. It's just that in order to get it there, it's just going to take some work. And I recognize that every night I'm up till 1 a.m., but I'm actually strong enough right now to actually handle it. I'm actually at an age right now that I can actually handle it. And I was like, my dad was realizing he was thinking about it from his age and how tired he would be. But I was like, bruh, I'm 34. Like, I can handle this. And so this topic kind of came to me of just like, when you're in that middle of the process where, because my dad kept wanting to like see the finished product. However, one of the things I kept telling him is, yo, you might be right. But once we start the work, our minds may start to change. We got to start getting the work done, though. We got to start getting the basis first. We got to start like actually getting the first thing done that will lead to that. And that was scraping off the popcorn, doing all these different things. And one of the things that like a topic that came to me is just like, you had kind of alluded to a little bit in the mental of just like staying in the present moment. And the present moment for me last week was hard. It was work. It was every single night. I'm getting great sleep because I am just scraping and my shoulders are just like burning. There was nothing I could say to make it better. I was tired of the bleach smell. It wasn't really getting out like that. But eventually, I just stayed focused. Sometimes it was harder on certain parts of the ceiling than other parts, and it was pissing me off. And I did start thinking it would be easier to have someone else come and do this. But I was just like, but look at how far I've gotten already by myself. I think I can do this. I just have to be okay with the fact that this is going to be work. And what I noticed about the work is that with the right tools, I can do anything. I just got to have the right tools with this thing downstairs. So because I started like, and what was one of the other cool things about the work was that I didn't get tools before I needed them. So I actually knew what they were used for. I would get to a part and go, oh, I need something that does this. Then I go to Home Depot or Lowe's. I ask, yo, I'm trying to get this done. Do you have anything? Boom, boom, boom. Turns out it's already been done. But like if I'd have bought all this stuff before I even knew what I needed it for, it's just been an overwhelming amount of stuff for no reason. And so I'm curious, like, it's like I said, and now looking downstairs, I'm just like, ooh, it's a mess. But within a week, I have completely transformed the way it looks down there already, which is bananas. And it has empowered me to think more and do these different things. And right now I am in work mode because it felt good to see the fruits of something because I've been feeling stuck and just feeling like I'm working without seeing anything externally change. With everything else in my life, you know, the house is not included. I've been thinking about a lot of things and doing a lot of work and just being like, well, what's the payoff? And last week I saw the payoff. And so I'm like, it just required just that nitty gritty hard work. That doesn't make me feel good right away. So I'm curious, like, when you're in that stage of like nitty gritty hard work, like, how do you stay focused on the task at hand instead of saying, oh, this is good enough, or this is going to be incredibly hard, because one is looking in the past and one is looking in the future.
God, that's such a good question. My mind was going so many different places before the question, and then you brought it home with the question. I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about something we talked here on the podcast that's helped me a lot when I've had painful moments recently, and I want to disassociate, which is basically mentally go somewhere else so I'm not in the moment. And then I literally think about the podcast where we talked about that and stuff like that. Like, I work through in my head. I know, even if I can't remember why at the moment, because maybe I'm in fight or flight, like, I know that I decided associating is better than disassociating. And then I'll say the words, associate, Lucy, associate. And then that comes with the grounding, the deep breathing, checking in with my hearing, anything I can do to find what's positive in it. You know, that's where my motivation comes from. Like, oh, look, this is going to get me that new ceiling I want. Or like you were even saying, look at all the progress I've made. Like those sorts of things can really keep it going as far as mental chatter. But it's interesting you say that, because yeah, it's like, now that I've given those examples, I'm like, so what were the reasons I came up with why it's better to associate? I know I came to that conclusion, and then that really helps me do it. But yeah, I mean, basically, I feel like some of the things we've talked about, like that I might motivate with myself that have to do with associating, are like, okay, if I handle this now, I don't know, I know that I don't have to handle it later, like in a bigger way. Like we've talked about before, that sometimes like lessons or things we need, challenges we need to rise through, or whatever it is, that the feeling, that's the experience that's coming our way, if we can just handle it now, then maybe we don't have to deal with a future experience where a bigger version of this energy comes our way. So that sometimes motivates me to associate. And then there's some sort of like transformative alchemy power in shining the light of consciousness blindingly on something that you're doing and just transmuting it. Like it's such a talk. And it brings us back to clarity through focus. I mean, it's such a laser point of focus. One thing I've done related to this, which is so silly, it's making me laugh that I'm going to share it. But there was this movie that I watched around Halloween where there was a vampire in there, and it was like a half comedy, half horror. And he went back with Johnny Depp. That's very good. I was trying to remember the actor. And he was stuck in a coffin for 100 years with chains around him. And he was a vampire, so he couldn't die. And after I watched that movie, it really stuck with me. I was like, what mental fortitude to be able to, I mean, he had to, but I wonder what mental fortitude you would develop over 100 years if you had to sit there chained together, unable to move with your consciousness. And so just for fun, sometimes over the past couple of weeks, and definitely when I'm in a painful moment, I'm like, what would I do if I was that vampire? Like 50 years in, I'd probably be pretty chill. Like I can just sit here, totally consciousness that I'm here, but I'm not like squirming about it, like, does that make sense? It's like being so, like, I imagine that the only way that vampire got through that was to eventually become so aware that he just transcended the moment and like sat there in awareness. Like, I bet what did not get him there was to go, these chains hurt. I wish I wasn't in here. Yeah. This is so awful. This is so hard. Like, I imagine that it was associating that got him through it but I bet he just tried disassociating first. So if that makes sense, it makes sense to me, but I'm not sure if that made sense to you, kind of my point there.
It was like there and like kind of not there. I was like, all right.
Basically just that one way to get back to answer your question. One way that I think is really powerful to get through a hard time is to actually associate. And there are my examples why.
And I think that was like and I think like my mind saw it as a challenge. I was reading something this morning that talked about like anger and stuff like that. And I was, it's one of the things I've really worked on really well lately. And I was like, I'm very grateful that like my anger and frustration transitioned into getting something done.
Wow, that's true.
Of it. So even then, like as my arm is hurting, there are a few times where I stopped and I was like, okay, I just need a little bit of a break here. Oh, Grace, I haven't eaten yet. That's right. Let's pay attention to what freaking nutrition's been talking about. But there has been like a level of excitement about the work that I haven't felt since I was learning how to do animation. And that is different because for me, and you had kind of alluded to a little bit when you were talking, like, I forget what the freak you said, but I remember thinking, oh, that's it. But for me, when I wake up, the work kind of gets me excited because I'm just like, oh, I won't be limited as much on this anymore. That's how I felt with the animation. I've always waited to get the right cameras, to get the right actors, to get the right things. And with animation and teaching myself that, I'm like, oh, anything that's in my mind, I can actually create now as I teach myself this. And that's been like something I've been doing even with the house stuff, like straight up. I'm trying to make sure I do it right, because I could like do it a lazy way, but like you said earlier, like that could do more harm down the road. So I'm doing the hard work now to ensure that down the road it'll be easier. And I'm going to do the hard work now, even while I have the strength to do the hard work. That's a really cool thing. But the excitement that I have to actually get the work done has really hit me, because I'm just like, oh, I'm breaking free again of a limited mindset. And I'm focused right now on the work. So now I'm looking at the house and going, there's other things I could possibly do as well. Get everything out of that garage. I'm at a point where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of starting to learn. I could turn that into a whole recording studio, because I'm starting to learn how to do that.
Wow.
Little by little. And so I think that's why, like, that wasn't where I was thinking this thought was going to go, but doing the work is encouraging me to break free so that I won't be limited. And I think like leaning into that and being like, oh, this is going to be hard. But every single day I wake up, I go, woof, that is a whole lot more progress than I thought it was. Woof, all right, now I see how that's put together. And all I got to do is do that to make that work. Okay, so I just need this tool to make that work. And I mean, it's down to, I was gonna talk to my dad about it. Like, yo, let's take the wood paneling off, and I'll put up the wall up there, and I know how to do that. All you gotta do is just staple this into there, like they got right there, and then I'll just use this mud technique that I've just learned from having to do it with other things, and then we'll do this. And I'm just like, yo, and I'm realizing, oh, I can actually be, if I embrace the work, like, oof, it's gonna be a project, but man, I can't wait to see it.
Embrace the work. There it is.
Yeah.
Embracing it.
Embrace the work. And like, it was a very interesting kind of thing for me. Because what it did is, some of my sponsors said it today, he was like, hey, Ryan, you thought you were just a camera guy. And I was like, yeah, I absolutely thought that. Until I remained open, curious at first. Let's see if this will work. And embraced the project, embraced what was next, and just continue to have a learner's mindset. And ask people. Don't try to do it all myself. If someone says like, oh, try this, like, I'll be like, okay, whatever. I really do want to see if I really do want to do this. And it's like my sponsor said, like you had said, like I had said earlier, with like the meditation thing, like I'm starting to get good at it because I'm just practicing it every single day. Like if I'd have done this once or twice and not done well, which one of the things I didn't do very well the first time, but I was like, oh, what can I have done differently? Oh, try this, do this. So now I'm starting to get it to where I'm like, oh, just boom, boom. Like, don't let that first messed up time determine what I do forever now. And so it's just been a very interesting shift. And it's really cool to see the house look different. So
I'm excited. I mean, I love the story. And then just personally, I think it's kind of neat that you started this, and then through a myriad of different reasons, I won't be there for like in person at your house for like 3 weeks or so. Yeah. So I'll randomly see it like a month later. So big reveal.
I've been taking pictures of it. I showed Reggie a picture of what it looked like last Tuesday, and he was like, and I was like, bro, it's wild how within a week, that's how it looks now.
Wow. That's powerful to remember too, how much things can change in a week. Hey.
Yeah. So
if you're willing to do the work.
If you're willing to do the work, right? Eventually, one day it just clicks. And so yeah, so that was a topic. That was what I've been trying to really hold on to and not talk about just yet. So, but it's been really cool, really exciting. So,
right on.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back to it once we get off of this thing. So,
I love it.
so, anyways, thanks, guys. We'll go ahead and close it out there. Thanks for tuning in with us via whatever you tune this in with. So we're going to go ahead and close this out with the Serenity Prayer. Higher power,
grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Peace out.
All right, y'all. See you next week.